Catus Maximus here, this time talking about some Fuller tools. Fuller tools always were like a, they were a mid-grade brand, but they were pretty decent. They would be considered more premium compared to a lot of tools made nowadays. But back in the, I guess, 70s, 80s, 90s, when the Fuller brand, most of the Fullers were made in Japan. These are indeed made in Japan. Always just reasonable quality tools. And I've always kind of had a little bit of fondness for the Fullers. These have just a tiny bit of play, but they're still pretty good. We can see that the size of the center rivet there is actually pretty large, so they're definitely reasonably heavy duty here. Managed to find a pair that does not have totally chewed up wire cutters. They do have seen some use, but not a ton of use. You can tell because the teeth, the serrations on the teeth are actually in pretty good condition. So this is an old pair that just hasn't been used very much. Do like this, we can see serrations in the back. So these are, the 8-inch pairs are really for like electricians, for managing wires. And so these serrations are actually for pulling fish tape. You take fish tape is the steel or fiberglass tape that you put down through walls, conduit, that type of stuff, tie a wire through, and then you pull the tape back out. But it's hard to get a good grip on that fish tape. So these little serrations in the back of the jaw and these pliers is so you can get a hold of that tape, get a nice grip on it, and then use both sides of the pliers to be able to pull it through with your hand, and it's a nice feature. As a matter of fact, it's something that's even missing from these Kleins. These are slightly newer Kleins. Never like the laser etching because it's always so hard to see. So both of these, as you can see, yellow handles. It's almost like the Fullers were trying to be some Kleins here. But if we get, I guess, the center line of the rivets together, we can see the different distance from the center line of the rivet, the pivot, to the tip of the needle nose is the same as the Kleins. Kleins eke out another ½ inch of length on their handles. Another thing we can tell by the Kleins is that the Kleins maintain a thicker area further out, then they slightly taper. These Fullers have like a more even taper right, from the base. Where the Kleins, they just maintain more thickness a little further out, just to make them a little more robust. It's one of the things that makes Klein so professional. This hole here, that's what happens when you cut a live wire and it arcs. It usually just makes a nice little hole. So the cutters in these Kleins are not very good. Obviously, we have a gap there and a hole, but I still like these as general use needle nose pliers. You can see this is what happens. They kind of get a little worn at the tips, just to give you an idea on how to tell, a set of needle nose that is in good condition versus the ones that are a little bit more worn, I should say. The other thing that we can see here, compared to the Kleins, is that we just have just a bit more steel, a bit more girth around this area of the Kleins. So the Fullers, once again, are not Kleins, and one of the things that sets Kleins apart is they just throw a little bit more steel there, and just a little bit more girth in the needle nose, so they actually have just a bit more rigidity. But other than that, these Fullers are still pretty decent pliers. And this also goes to show that a pair of pliers that looks like this, it's like, oh, beat up old handles, rust, these ought to be kind of punished. Turns out, if you just inspect one of these old tools a little bit more, you'll find that you'll have great cutters and great conditioned jaws, and they actually have had very little use. So you shouldn't be too afraid of it. These are the 192-8s, and once again, they're not quite as good as Kleins, but they're still pretty decent Japanese-made 8-inch needle nose pliers. Anyway, really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Till next time, Catus Maximus out. Just to add a few more seconds to that video, I did want to mention, I did remember that, I don't know if I've done a video on these Fuller linesman pliers dedicated. I certainly have included them in one of the videos, but did want to show that these are the, if you can just read that, these are the 194-8s, 192-8s. So these are the matched pair, and so years apart, just hunting around for tools, these lineman's pliers have been used a little bit more, but nonetheless, you can end up actually finding a matched pair of vintage tools. See you next video.